Yeah, so I'm Robert Peltekov. I'm a PVP alum, like most of you, I assume. Going to Cal right now, from Bulgaria, or my family's Bulgarian originally. I was born pretty close to here, actually, in Torrance, in LA, and then, from PV. So that's me. Thank you guys again for having me. What I wanted to talk to you guys about today was mainly just what I'm up to right now, what I'm doing at UC Berkeley, my program, my activities, and then I'll go into what I did like throughout high school, or what really led me to choose the program and the activities I'm in right now. And I'll get into some college versus high school differences. It seemed like you guys wanted to see how the adjustment process was, sort of, and how like tips, I guess, tips and tricks to college that I had to adjust to after high school. And I'll end off with some takeaways that I think I've learned, especially throughout the last year and last couple of years. And yeah, so we'll get right into it. And then feel free. I can't actually see questions as they are right now since my screen is being taken up by the presentation, but feel free to, I guess, message if it's pertinent to this. Feel free to like interrupt me, Akshay, or whoever. If you have your question, you can also interrupt me, or we'll have time, I believe, at the end to answer any questions that you guys might have. This will be more overview, right, of what I've done, and I can get more into specifics of like types of classes I've taken, whether you guys want to hear it or not. Just ask away, you know. So yeah. So my program right now, I go to UC Berkeley, right? So that's my new home. I'm in MET, which is the Management, Entrepreneurship, and Technology program at Berkeley. It's pretty new. In its third cohort, so it's only been around for 3 years or 2 years before me. They have a new class right now, so we're finally a full cohort. What the program basically does is it merges both the Berkeley College of Engineering, specifically any route you want to take within engineering. I'm in EECS, so that's my major, my engineering major. That's electrical engineering and computer science. And it merges it with Berkeley Haas, which is their business school. So it really has a focus on the entrepreneurial and technology side of like the merging between the two majors. And yeah, I chose EECS because I've been pretty heavily into robotics and such throughout the time, and I realized that technology and technological skills aren't the only thing that I wanted to know. Because you can be as smart as you want, right? As innovative technologically as you want, but if you can't communicate your ideas, uh, they're not going to go anywhere, right? So that's why I really like the program and what it had to offer. About what the program does is I said it already merges both majors, but you're basically just taking dual majoring, right? And that's something that's a lot harder to do at Berkeley because these are pretty full course loads. So it does merge a couple requirements together, and the program gives me and the students access to a lot of entrepreneurship type resources that are pretty helpful and pretty awesome. Uh, yeah, I'll tell you guys more about it in a bit, but yeah. So this is my cohort. Um, I'm right here if you guys can see. So this is our 23 cohort. It's pretty small. So every cohort is about 50 people ish. Around there, we're a little less, but basically it's 50 people who all have this passion for the intersection between technology and business. Um, Everyone comes from basically all over the world, all over the U.S. mainly, but there's also international students, and it's pretty amazing. All the backgrounds that I've gotten to know, all the people that I've gotten to know within this program. I would say that's probably one of its strongest points because uh, the connections and the friends I've made from within the program are just insane. Everyone's just so inspiring, right, with everything that they've done. We know people from Peninsula, right, and we know the usual normal path throughout Peninsula. Be in a bunch of clubs, do a bunch of APs and such, but that's not the case for other people around the world. And all of these kids are pretty top tier from all their high schools, and it's super cool to be a part of a group like this. And every day that I'm with them, I'm motivated to try more and do more and learn more, right? And so I have at the top a little sticker about MET Student Board. That's one of the things that MET offers is it's a little student board that puts on events for all of us. And so on top of, and that student board's on top of the actual staff that we have helping us around, basically guiding us for within any struggling points or hard issues or connections that we want to make. We have the staff to help us for that. But within the student board, I actually wanted to tell you guys about that because that's part of what I joined for this semester, throughout this year. I was on their external team, and I worked to start this bulletin board organization or initiative within MET. So what bulletin board was that we were able to start was basically a consultancy from within MET. If you guys, to give a brief overview on that, is basically we go to startups and we form teams of 5 to 6 MET students, whoever wants to do it, of course. And we basically choose a couple startups throughout the semester, and we help them on their actual entrepreneurship path, right? The startup can be doing whatever. Startups we had this semester that we were able to find were one called, I'm forgetting its name. One of them was about packaging food, finding a new way to distribute and package food. So they were making reusable containers for restaurants to use whenever people wanted takeout. And they were basically designing a whole supply chain and distribution network for those containers to be reused and recycled to eliminate waste. And the other company was basically rating other organizations and companies based on their diversity and inclusion. So they were giving rankings and basically trying to promote a better work style within large companies. And so within both of these startups, our team of 6 students would go there, and we basically help them out with any task they might need. Whether it's product design, we'd help them actually build out their products and market them. Whether it's business strategy and figuring out what the best next steps are to do. This is what bulletin board aimed to achieve. So we were just there to help them out on the way. And it was super cool because you learn about this stuff in class, about business and engineering, but bulletin board was an avenue that I really enjoyed helping to start because it let you actually take those skills that you learned in class and directly apply them to a real company right afterwards. And this was during the semester, so it was super cool. Specifically, what I did for it was business development. So I did a lot of business development to actually source the companies that wanted to work with us and then basically find them. Yeah, that was and marketing the whole program for future generations as well. I'll stop here right now if you guys have any quick questions about MET specifically. That's basically it. I covered most of it, but yeah. Everything's still going well. You guys can all hear me.
Yeah, Robert, could you expand on business development and what exactly that encompasses?
Yeah, of course. So business development is it's all about making connections and looking for new partnerships and business avenues to go down. So business development at Microsoft, for example, would be uh, looking for new partners and looking for new ways to make money, right? Basically, in our case, it was looking for startups to work with. And business development is this entire role sort of that just takes on creating connections with people outside of your organization, whether it be for other companies or just other industries. It's like this whole broad. I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, but it's this whole broad, like, basically career path that you can choose, and it's all about connections and getting to know people and trying to fit those new connections and those new people you meet into your business strategies. And so finding whether it's a partnership, whether it's a deal that you want to close, business development is the way to go about it, right? Because you need to actually know who you can work with before you can actually start making money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what business development mainly is, and I'll touch more up on it within my other organization and how we basically go about doing it. But yeah, so that was business development within the MET student board. It was just emailing a bunch of companies and trying to set up calls and basically find one that would partner with us. But yeah, does that sort of answer your question, or Akshay, whoever asked the question? Take that as a yes. If so,
Yeah, that was good. Thank you.
awesome, awesome, awesome. So outside of MET, I'm in a club, only one club, as opposed to the several that we usually get into within Peninsula, right? You're used to being in 4, 5, 6 different clubs, but in college, I decided to just stick to one because I did do put a lot more time into it. And so the organization I'm a part of is Blockchain at Berkeley, and this organization it focuses on blockchain technology. And I can tell you guys more about that later, but I won't really focus on the details of what the technology is or what it does, but rather why I joined it and what I do within the club. So when I went right to Berkeley, it almost felt like everyone was pushing to, like, a wave was pushing me to join everyone else in a search for some consulting club. And consulting being just clubs that work with companies that help them achieve their goals. And whether it's business or strategy or engineering, that's what consulting is. It's just helping a business achieve their goal that they don't have the resources to do themselves. Blockchain at Berkeley was not that, and I think that was part of the reason why I chose it. It wasn't. I didn't want to get tugged with the crowd of people and do something that I wasn't really that interested in. Blockchain was this technology that I knew almost nothing about. It was new. It was interesting, and most of all, importantly, it was the people within the club that seemed really genuine and actually happy to be doing what they were doing. And after going to a couple info sessions, they just seemed like the right fit. So I applied. I got in luckily, happily, and I've been in the organization for a year now. I'm still working with it throughout the summer, and yeah. So what does blockchain at Berkeley actually do? So we're an organization that basically drives innovation in the blockchain industry. We're the connection to we're the industry's connection basically to academia, where we focus a lot more on education and practical research. Right? We run. We started by running a couple courses, and you can actually go take them on edX on blockchain technology, and we also run two courses at school that are also online on our website, blockchain at Berkeley. .edu or something along those lines. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. But we run courses to teach the community, the worldwide community, about blockchain, and we've gotten a lot of recognition through that. And so after that, we started actually consulting as well. I know I said I didn't want to consult, but this was different because it was a lot more technologically based, and that's what first also helped draw me in, right? Because it was still letting me get a taste of that whole world, right? But I was still in some new technology, and I was still getting to apply my learnings in that technology to help companies do some more work. And then as a third branch, we also do research. So we have a couple videos up. We do white paper circles, so analyzing current protocols, and then we have members that also do their own research and either go into industry with that research that they do, or uh, take it to academia, work with professors in the school to do that sort of thing. So that's a general overview of our club. Super cool. We're about 40 to 50 people ish, somewhere there, and super motivating. I think if I say Berkeley, this is one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had within the whole school up till now. Specifically, my roles within the club, I'll tell you guys a bit about it. I'm a developer consultant, so I basically started off learning blockchain, and then now I've worked with on one external project where it's like the MET bulletin board type of thing, but we specifically focus on building out proof of concept or helping companies design their blockchain applications or figure out where blockchain is a value add for their company. So I work like that. I specifically help write some code for the projects, and so that was my initial draw into the organization. Second off, I started this semester or last semester starting to do biz dev, and this was my, I guess, real draw, or like it was what really made me really enjoy biz dev was doing it with blockchain at Berkeley. So a bit more about what biz dev actually is. So I already said it's just finding connections, but within blockchain at Berkeley, I really felt like biz dev had a real role. It wasn't just you were some group of students looking to work with some big company, right? Now we were an actual known entity, and we were I like within BizDev, I was starting to email people from all over the world, whether it was Toyota. We're currently in the works for companies like Toyota or Samsung or Ford, for example, where we're trying to we're trying to basically build out a relationship to maybe host an external project with them or work with them in the future. Or it's me talking to, for example, the other week I was on a call with this blockchain team from Switzerland. They're a group of students from there, and they're looking at our website and they wanted to get in touch with us. So I was taking that call up, and now we have a couple events in the works for roundtables and discussion. We're going to be looking at the different governance between our two basically worlds of blockchain that we're used to, and so it's super cool. Uh, me, I've met more people than I could ever imagine, right, through business development, and it's really been the hidden gem within the organization. I realized how much more I enjoy this type of thing, and I realized how useful it was in real life, right? If you know the people in your industry, you can basically find anything you need because you just go to people for solving problems rather than trying to solve them yourself when you don't have the resources yourself to do it. And lastly, I'm helping out right now with the accelerator. So another thing that BAB does is run an accelerator for companies. And I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the term, but it's basically an incubator for companies or startups who are really new to basically come to Berkeley, and we work with them to help connect them to various opportunities, various educational resources in terms of blockchain, and connect them with the industry in Silicon Valley that we're really close to right now, and we've become really close to. And so within there, I'm helping fundraise, and also just using my biz dev skills from blockchain at Berkeley and my connections from there to basically give them forth to the companies within the accelerator. And so, I mean, just the other day, I was able to connect the accelerator with a VC I was in talks with from blockchain at Berkeley. So super cool and amazing opportunities, amazing group of people. Really close. I've gotten to be really close with the people there, and yeah, I wouldn't, even though it's not the engineering robotics type of thing I thought of I thought of doing when I initially went to Berkeley. I would never once take a step back and not have joined blockchain at Berkeley if I had the chance again. Um, really, one of my favorite experiences at Berkeley. So yeah, uh, that's basically blockchain at Berkeley. Outside of that, right now I'm interning at Hermes Robotics. It's a autonomous vehicle company, startup right now. And within the organization, I'm working to. I did a project on sensor integration, so testing out new sensors and figuring out a way to build it into their pipelines. And then right now, I'm currently working on some backend development, so moving their backend from what is right now Google Drive to a real data pipeline so that they can scale properly in the future and use the data that they're collecting, like this picture in the bottom right. That's like point cloud accumulation. So basically, they driven the robot, their autonomous vehicle around and collecting data. And using software, they're able to basically mesh all of the different point clouds together to basically create a 3D rendition of just millions of points uh, to basically define what their world, what the vehicle around them is actually seeing. So that's a lot of data, and I'm just working on building out a backend and a pipeline for through which that data can easily be stored and recovered in the future if they want it. Part of the reason I joined Hermes Robotics was because of the startup feel. Uh, I really like it. I'll tell you guys more about my experiences from Boeing, another internship I did in high school, but I really like the startup idea, the startup feel. I mean, it's part of the reason why I'm in MET to start off with, but it was really, you get the sense of like, just like empowerment, where you don't really have some huge organization weighing you down, some huge bureaucracy telling you what to do, but there's just problems in front of you more than you can count, and you just take them up and you try to solve them however which way you can. And so I really love that type of environment, and that's what drew me to Hermes initially. Super cool group. Um, yeah, so that's Hermes Robotics, and then I got a question on what do I do outside of business and engineering. Well, basically just I'm really lucky to have my passions be really well aligned with the professional and career oriented things that I'm doing. Right, I really love engineering. I really love, and robotics is one of the my main activities throughout high school, and I really just love doing that. But I mean, outside of those things, I just love. I said I already love. Started skateboarding. I wrestle, bike, and just make fun stuff. Whatever it's like, building. I love building and just creating things with my hand, whether it's art or just. I love woodworking, so yeah, that's why I say I like making stuff. And then just finding times with friends. I think from college, the friends I've made have been one of the best things. So outside of work commitments, literally anything I do when I'm with them is basically become like my hobby or like my fun thing. Whether it's just doing nothing in a room in a dorm in our dorm rooms together or going out to outings. So both of these are from football games. The second one on the bottom is at the big game with Sanford or Cal one. Go Bears. So yeah, I'll stop here. So that's basically me right now. Yeah, still working at Hermes Robotics this summer, and yeah, that's basically sums up my year at Cal. And I'll stop here for questions that you guys might have before we move on to high school activities and what led me to choose the things that I'm doing right now. Uh, if there are none, I can move on. I'll take it as there are
Yeah,
none.
I think we're good. There aren't any questions in the chat.
Sounds good. Okay, so high school activities. Um, this is just what I did. This isn't to say this is some cookie cutter route to go to MET, get into MET or get into Berkeley, right? Before I go on, I just want to say that like this is just my path. If MET has taught me anything, it's that everyone has a different path. No one did the same things that I did, and everyone has a unique way of getting to college. I mean, that's the beauty of college, right? That you're meeting people from different backgrounds with different experiences. And so don't look at this, what I've done, as any check marks to do yourself or make sure you have done or make sure you've tried out, right? But rather just, I want to basically do this section and just show you guys what led me to make my decision or what did I take away from the organizations that I was in to make the decision to go to Berkeley and become a part of MET and then uh, start blockchain or start working in blockchain at Berkeley. So yeah, I mentioned this a couple times, but from a really young age, I was lucky enough to be introduced into robotics. I mean, this entire field, engineering. It started with Legos initially. Legos, and I got this Lego Mindstorm kit, which is on the left, you can see, and then Vex Robotics throughout middle school. I was able to start just like building robots, and I really enjoyed that. Right, I really loved the idea of not following some instruction guide, not following some instruction set, and just letting my imagination take form on a canvas that was a robot, and making it, programming it, designing it, losing with it, scrapping it, and making it again. I just fell in love with that from middle school, and I was really lucky to have done that because that's basically what dictated my entire high school path. Right, I had positive experience at high school. In high school, I did a bunch of competitions, a bunch of organizations that I would say have positively impacted me. Each one has left a mark, and each one has had played some role in making me choose METs. So from left to right, there's me and my wrestling group. So it was kind of like my stay sane with all the activities. I did Cyber Patriots from ninth grade. Joined Stellar Explorers and started Vex Robotics in 10th grade, and also TSA. And I'm sure many of you guys have heard of these organizations. I was lucky enough to be a part of them from pretty much the start of high school and start of Peninsula. But once again, everyone has a different path, and yeah, I'll just go through explaining what I took away from these organizations rather than what I did within them. So yeah, starting off with Cyber Patriots. This is our team. Lucky enough to go to nationals my senior year. After a lot of hard work, but let me get a quick show of hands. How many of you guys know what Cyber Patriots is or don't know? Give a couple seconds. And Aksh, if you could just sum it up, or
Yeah, I think everyone's videos are off.
I
So
mean, I'll take it as I'll take
just
it as
explain.
I said it a bad way, but I'll take it as most of you guys might be new to it. So, Cyber Patriots is basically a cybersecurity competition where we sit like we are around a bunch of computers for a long period of time, and we're given basically security problems to try to work out. Uh, it's not like anything I've ever done in class. I think this was like my first step into what a real life, I guess, cybersecurity scenario might be like, or a real life job might be like, because there were no longer any instructions on what to do, how to do it. We had to just go and learn it ourselves. And this experience really reinforced that learning in this type of setting is additive, and it's all from experience. We only went to nationals. We were only able to go to nationals our senior year. That was after 4 years of grinding and grinding and grinding. Right, there was no pre-exposed advantages that you could have going into Cyber Patriots that might have made you better at the competition. The only thing that made you better was simply experience and having been exposed to more and more scenarios and problems that you might have to face, so that the next time you see them, oh, you're like, oh, I've seen this before. I know how to go about this, and then you were able to do it. So what I focused on within my team was Cisco networking, and so that's like a picture of Packet Tracer on the right here. It's basically building out simulated network, so routers, computers, switches, and looking at how packets are flowing through the network and how data is exchanged. So what packets go to form your website, for example. That's the type of thing I started working with, and how to monitor and secure the packets that are flowing within the network so that only the people who should see things can see things. That's what I did. But I mean, going into it, I knew nothing about this. I mean, heck, remember the first time I tried it, I got like only the introduction question right. Like set it, name the objects in the network. So everything in this organization taught me that learning in reality is an additive process, and it's all with experience. You can't sit down in a classroom and expect to know everything. You need to have done the precursors to that class and learn those things first so that you can learn the things in this class. Or in this case, you just need to have gone to more competitions so that you gain the experience you need to actually finally get good at a competition like this. And so, I mean, I've carried that ideology with me all this time. Um, it's really important to just understand that when you're starting something new, it's hard, but with perseverance and with just trying new things, trying it out, and not being discouraged that it's hard and that it seems really hard because everyone starts off at some point. And if I had known I'd get to the position I was in senior year when I started in freshman year, I would have been completely flabbergasted. I would have been like, "How's that even possible?" Well, it's just trial and error, and it's just basically not stopping, right? And experience is the name of the game in this case. So that's Cyber Patriots. Stellar Explorers um, was another competition I started. I started this in sophomore year. I don't really like my picture right there, but that's us at nationals. I think my junior year or sophomore year. I'm not sure which one, but basically, what the organization is, the competition is a satellite mission design competition. So we're basically given. We sit around a bunch of computers again, a team of 6 of us, and we're basically given a scenario, and they're telling us to design the orbit, design the parts on the satellite, and design the rocket that the satellite goes up with. And we're not actually building any of this; it's all simulation. But it was super cool because this was something that before I went to Stellar Explorers, I had never heard of what goes into aerospace. I mean, I knew, for example, with Cyber Patriots, the competition I just explained before this, I knew what cybersecurity was and why it was important, but I knew like literally nothing about Stellar Explorers. Um, this organization was super cool because um, it was an entire new field that I was able to get my hands on, and I really fell in love with the picture on the right, which was orbit determination, and I really just fell in love with this visual thinking that it made me experience. Um, the fact that it was a new competition, a new organization that challenged me to think in a new way was, I think, what I loved most about it. And the fact that it was just basically a big puzzle that we were solving. Um, I think in here, more than ever before, it stressed to me how important teamwork was because the tasks that we were given were way too big. We would have to determine all those things and design the best mission possible, but we were only given 6 hours. And so splitting up teamwork, work within our team, and becoming, I guess, area experts. For me, it was within the orbit determination. Within others, for example, is maybe using the modeling software, planning out our trajectory throughout the competition, or using Excel really well to process the data that we were getting. Uh, the name of the game was just like splitting up work, and teamwork is essential, basically. And so this is like the first competition where I really learned to trust my teammates. And after working with them so long, I really learned to accept the fact that like I don't know much about what the others are doing, but I know that I can trust them to do it well, and I can trust them to uh, do their work to give me information that I need to do my work, so that as a team, as a whole, we can move forward. Yeah. So I mean, that was one of the things. That was the main thing I learned from Stellar Explorers. It was just opening the doors to a new industry, specifically aerospace, that I'm still really in love with and really engaged in right now, and also just learning the importance of teamwork. I mean, I'm sure you guys know this, but it's a different thing to learn it from a classroom and actually experience it in person, as I'm sure many of you guys know, whether it's like from sports or from other activities. This was just how I was I first really came face to face with this idea. That's Stellar Explorers, and then comes Vex Robotics. This was basically my passion throughout. I mean, I said it was from middle school I already started, but in high school it really became a really big passion. I mean, I spent so many hours with this team, so many hours with this organization. I realized that first robotics wasn't for me, or at least the team wasn't for me. And so me and my friend, a couple of us started Vex Robotics at Peninsula High School, and we really fell in love with this organization. I mean, still mainly for the same reasons that all the decisions were up to us. We could build whatever we wanted. We wanted to win the competition or do it to the best of our advantage, to our best advantage. But I mean, I did this throughout my entire time there, and anytime I look back at it, it's just good memories, right? I learned how to think outside of the box mainly here because you're tasked with doing so much. I mean, this robot that you're seeing right here, it had to start within an 18 by 18 by 18 inch square, but then it needed to expand up, rise up to a height of uh, 5 feet, right? And so you can see in the top right here, you see it like storing cones and stuff. And so to store them, it needed to extend up, but it needed to start within this confined space. So it really pushed my ability to think outside the box and think mechanically, right? Because of Vex, I almost decided to major in mechanical engineering rather than electrical engineering and computer science. It's really weird. I mean, I think in the end it was just because I was a little more inspired by the programming aspects of robotics than I was from the design aspects. So that's what led me to join to decide EECS. But I can talk more about the different majors afterwards if you guys have questions. But right now, for Vex, that's what Vex did for me. Um, I like to show this. This was one of the robots we built within Vex. That was for the same competition. It was actually for the same competition as this one, except one of my favorite things about Vex was that you didn't have to follow any rules, right? There was no instruction set to build a robot. And I mean, I mean, that's how life is, right? There's no instruction set to how to be successful. There's no instruction set on how to make a good company, right? It's all about what you want to do and how you go about it. So one of the robots that we actually built in this competition was, we call it a Boofbot. But basically, this game was all about stacking cones and stacking cones as high as you can on these little red cones on these mobile goal bases, right? And they were heavily weighted. And the idea was you pick up these mobile goal bases and then you stack cones on them as high as you can. And that was like the whole idea of the game. And it wasn't really that interesting at that point because everyone just like stacking cones on their own. There wasn't that much interaction between opposing teams on the field like there was in previous games. So what me and my friend on the team did was we decided to scrap the idea of stacking cones at all, which was really kind of scary, right? Because like that was the only way to earn points. And so we're like, screw that. We're not going to earn any points at all. We're going to build a robot that plays only defense and prevents other team from scoring points. So we built this robot. Let me show you guys a video. It expands like that to start within the 18 inches, and then our wheelbase expands to the side. And the whole point of this was so that we can drive over these red mobile goals and knock them over. And this was pretty insane because up till then, we'd never seen anything like this. We were going on a full limb on our own, right, to design something that the game wasn't meant for. This was supposed to be a really offensive game. Everyone was supposed to play to stack cones. And here we were designing a robot to knock the mobile goals over so the team can't pick them up. And I mean, like, we were super jazzed about this idea. No one had thought of something like that. No one had anticipated there would ever be a scenario where a mobile goal base would be knocked over. And I mean, when we went to our first competition, we didn't win. I mean, we didn't really expect to win. We almost did. We came in second place. But it just caused like an uproar. I mean, teams. It was because we found like a sort of like a loophole to go around doing this idea, but teams were like different teams were amazed. I mean, the entire rule book had to be changed from what we did in that competition because we found a different way to go about it, and it was a way that no one had expected. And that was, even though we didn't win with this robot, um, we like made a physical change in like the actual atmosphere and then the environment of the robotics competition throughout that year. People started designing new robots to accomplish the same idea after this one in other competitions, and we were getting videos sent to us from around the world, basically of similar ideas or of inspired ideas from what we'd done. I mean, the team that won Worlds had like an implementation of this idea, and so out of all my memories in Vex, this is like probably my favorite. Even though we didn't win any awards with it, it was the fact that you have the power, right, to change the atmosphere of the environment you're working in and really make it your own. Make a print on the competition that you're facing. And so that was my favorite moment from Vex throughout all these years. I mean, at Worlds, we ended up building like one of these normal robots. This is ours right here. And we just scored scones. And this is, this is a bit of an example, but uh, we saw inspirations from our design afterwards. And yeah, Vex is super cool. However, right now, up till now, I've really only been talking about technology, right? And maybe you guys are thinking, why business? Why did you join business? And why did you start doing business? What led you to join BizDev at Blockchain at Berkeley or MET, right? So what part of Vex had was interview process where judges would come in between your matches and they would ask you about your robot and ask you about your team and how your team works and stuff and what you've done, the engineering choices you've made throughout this time. And it's all about your presentation skills. Really, here every team is on the same level where no matter how good or bad their robot is, every team is looked at like as equal from the start of their presentation from the judges. And really, it's only about your ability to talk to them and explain the ideas that you went through in designing your robot that you could hope to get an award from the judges. Maybe like design or maybe something else. And this was really cool because it leveled the playing field. Like I said in Cyber Patriots, experience is the name of the game. The more robots you build, the more ideas you'll have to build new robots. So that's really unfair when it comes to the playing field because older teams are naturally just going to be better. But upon interviewing, if you show that you've had really amazing ideas for the position you're at, you could still win awards. And so that's the beauty of the interviews, right? And so I'd gotten pretty used to them. Pretty used to it. I'd been able to create a flow with my teams throughout the years, nailing these interviews, right? Except one time at States in my sophomore or junior year. We were at States and we built this robot we'd spent hours on. I mean, literal days up coming up to the competition. And we go to the competition and the judges come and I'm there. I start talking to the first judge and explaining my role in the robot. And that moment when I was talking to the judge, all of a sudden I started watching her face basically glow down. She didn't care about literally anything she was talking about, anything I was talking about, and there was really there was no interest in what I was doing, and I was like, "What? How is this possible?" And then it went to my friend, my teammate, who started talking, and I literally watched this judge's face light up. It was pretty incredible because I'd never seen anything like that. It wasn't that I had done anything less on the robot, but it was about how you present your ideas. And this is what really drove in the first idea that communication is vital in the world, right? You can have the greatest robot ever, and greatest idea ever. But if you can't share that idea with someone else, it's going nowhere. And so that's what led me to decide on MET, and that's why I'm still doing business right now because I want to have that experience in the intersection of engineering and business. Right? So I just realized I'm taking a lot of time for this presentation, so I'm gonna speed up a little bit. I took a summer at Boeing my junior year. I interned there as a software development intern, and I would say the main thing from that was that there are a lot more meetings than you might think. And this piggybacks on the idea of communication because in Boeing, it almost felt like every other hour we had a meeting. And I was like, there's literally no time to do any work. But when you're in a huge, massive team, an organization, a corporation like Boeing, teamwork is vital to how everything happens. And staying on the same page with hundreds of people is crucial. And the only way to do that is through meetings and communication. So learning how to talk, learning how to speak, and share your ideas is really what I learned was going to be the thing that takes me from the next level, from being an engineer to an entrepreneur and really finding a passion in startup technology, right? And so that's why I chose MET. So next, I wanted to tell you guys a bit about college versus high school. Um, are there any questions in the moment, Aksh?
Not yet. I think we're good.
No?
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome, awesome. So if there's one word to describe college, it's freedom. I've never felt so much freedom right before from high school. There's no schedule that you have to follow, no one to tell you what to do, when to do your homework, etc. You are finally your own human, right? I'm like, well, college, there's as much time as you want in the world. There's so many doors to go down. I mean, there was a lot of clubs at Peninsula, but at Berkeley, I was just flabbergasted. There were so many things to do. Class, it wasn't even like the main thing anymore. I mean, class is only one of the avenues upon which you can learn. And so having your own schedule, you didn't have to always go to class, right? I mean, don't take it as don't go to class, right? Lecture is almost is a really good learning tool, but it's not it's not the only way anymore. And of course, college, there's parties, there's people, there's fun things to do. My first intro to Berkeley was kind of surreal. It kind of felt like a slap on the face, like this little comment right here. I'm like, it really made me question of whether Berkeley was just Peninsula 2.0 in terms of competition. There were lots of opportunities, but there were an insane number of people. There are more people. I mean, Berkeley's undergrad population is like, or student population is like 30,000 people. That's like an absurd number. Um, when I got there, all of a sudden people started applying for clubs, and I'm like, what? You have to apply for clubs? Like you're applying to colleges, but it's just a club. And that was like really scary because like there are clubs that people wanted to get into, and they had low acceptance rates. I'm like, okay, now I have to also not only adjust to college, but adjust to applying for clubs, and also at the same time in fall, people were already starting to recruit for internships next summer. And I'm just like, already? I'm like, man, that's like 9 months away. What company is going to take you now? But I mean, that's just the way it is. And it really just felt like a slap on the face. And there are so many smart people around you, and it felt almost infeasible to think that you can succeed with so many tasks, so many things to do, right? That are right then and there from the moment you got there. But in reality, that's just, I guess, part of like a big school culture is, or at least what part of big school culture is at Berkeley. I realize it's all about the people you're around and the people that you spend your time with. You can be with the smartest, most motivated people ever, or you can be with people who love to live in the moment and take steps one at a time, right? Who aren't as invested in uh, their career at the moment, at least. Of course, they will be later, but who like literally live a different way. Berkeley, a bit more about big school culture of Berkeley. You never had to see someone you don't want to see. It's kind of crazy. The school is so big, the campus is so huge. If you don't want to see anyone, just don't see them. If they're giving you bad vibes, if they're constantly negging you about what clubs did you apply, what internships are you trying out for, what recruiting preparation are you doing, just you can phase them out of your life, right? There's no need to have that negative energy around you, so no need to do it. Stick to your passion, right? Stick to what you actually enjoy doing rather than what other people are telling you to do. That's part of the reason why I went to blockchain at Berkeley, because it was something interesting and it was more close to what was interesting to me than what was interesting to the crowd, right? Class isn't the only way of learning. I mean, business development, everything I learned from my club, isn't from a class. Business development isn't from a class. It's really the people and the connections you make that drive the other half of your learning experience. I mean, you go to college to become a real person, to round yourself off, to become an adult, right? Uh, High school lecture sitting in a classroom isn't going to do that. And this is the time to try new things, right? Be exposed to new experiences and be open to doing new things. One of the biggest things that I had to adjust to in college was time management. That's the new kahuna in town, I say. Because time is really the biggest limiting factor now. In high school, if you weren't good at something, you can just pour more time into it to learn it or become better at the subject or figure out how to do it. But college, being at Berkeley, it was the first time where I literally found there was not enough time to get good enough. So it was all about efficiency, and efficiency was a new name of the game, right? How much time are you gonna allot to this homework, and how important is this homework, or how important is this club activity, right? Because you only have 24 hours in a day. It's all about finding your priorities, right? What's important to someone else might not be important for you, and it's important not to get drawn by what other people talk about and start following someone else's path when you should really be following yourself. So always doing a check on what your priorities are and what you yourself want to do is important. Using tools. I mean, believe it or not, that little piece of paper that Penn would give us at the start of every year that tells you there's 168 hours in a week. Show us how you're going to divide up your time. I never thought I'd actually use that, but that literally became the tool I've gone back to almost every month to reevaluate my time management. It's more useful than you could imagine in figuring out what your time is going into, and it really helps cut out things that you just don't have time for. If it's going to a new club or trying something new or taking a new class, uh, being on top of your time is crucial. And then, along the name of efficiency and becoming doing things faster, is learning with others. College, I really realized that using others and the others around you to your advantage is really important, because when you're in a group setting, you're gonna have more heads doing the same thing at once. You're gonna make discoveries. Other people are gonna make discoveries that you won't make on your own, or that you might just not come up with on your own, and it's really crucial. I mean, all of our EECS classes, the projects and the homeworks are designed to be done in a group, because that's just the best way you learn. And it's physically impossible to do it within a reasonable amount of time by yourself, because there's just so much to it. And learning with others is truly a skill that I've gotten better at, and it's really important. I just have to stress how important it is. I know we're running out of time, but Aksh, I mean, I can speed up. Are you guys fine with going forth, or I can give my contact details, and or this recording will be online right after.
Um, yeah, I think I'm fine and I can keep going. So as long as you're okay with it, I don't think we
Yeah,
have a
I'm
problem.
totally fine. Feel free to go if you have to. I'll be on after for more questions, but I'm pretty sure this is like the actual interesting stuff that you guys might want to hear for college and stuff. I apologize for not being wary of my time as much. But yeah, so learning with others was the last thing I wanted to say about time management. Super crucial tool. Make sure you do it. Group work is quite possibly the most effective way of work. And college self care became a really important thing. Part of the things that I realized I had to start accounting for in my timesheet was sleeping and making time for my health. So sleeping, exercising, and especially, last but not least, making time to do nothing. Leaving time for no activity, no school, no class, no club, just fun time with your friends. Because burnout is a real thing, and burnout will happen if you don't take the time to chill. And so, scheduling that into your schedule, making sure that you're not just working 24/7 is super important. And that can take the form of whatever you want it to take, right? So just make sure, almost more important, just make sure to find time to do other stuff, because it's really easy to be swept along the wave with everyone else who seems on the outside to just be 24/7 nonstop working. And then just a bit more about Berkeley culture. It's a big school, like I said, so many opportunities. It's always motivating there. Uh, Anyone you meet is doing some crazy thing. They're all exceptional students. They're all exceptional people. So the more people I've met, just the more I've fallen in love with the school. It is, I'm sure, as most of you guys have guessed, it is more liberal of a school. I mean, most colleges are, because you just have this wealth of knowledge and wealth of experiences that everyone is sharing. Everyone at Berkeley is a go-getter, and I would say this is mostly true of big schools where there is no mollycoddling, where you might get that feeling at a private school with smaller classes and stuff. I mean, my first CS class was 2,000 people. I mean, and there's a curve in, right? So it's like you're not going to be handheld, so don't expect to have an easy time. But I mean, that's almost like more motivating to stand up and do what is passionate for yourself. No one's going to tell you what to do anymore, and no one's going to care about what you do anymore. So being on top of your own stuff, or being motivated yourself, finding your own motivation is truly key, and I think that's what Berkeley helps you do. And getting that startup feeling. Berkeley's huge startup vibe. Everyone there being the way they are, and being right next to Silicon Valley is just, I mean, I have friends starting their own startups, especially within MET. It's kind of insane to be around that, right? I mean, Alex just started his own startup. He's already, I mean, you guys have started Ignite Minds, and it's pretty amazing to be a part of that right now. So yeah, that's Berkeley. And lastly, I mean, this will take only a couple more minutes, but some takeaways that I've had over the past couple years. I'll give you guys more time to ask questions when we're not after we're done with the presentation afterwards. But yeah, so there will always be someone better than you at something. It doesn't matter what it is. There's always going to be someone who's spent more time. This goes back to experience, and just experience is key. And having been exposed to some idea, some competition, some subject, being exposed to it more is going to lead to you knowing more in it. And so you always have to kind of have that perspective in mind, is where are you in your exposure compared to this other person. And it's to stop feeling bogged down by the fact that you might not be as good, right? You might not be as adept, and understanding that you are going on your own pace, right? It's really crucial, especially in a big school like Berkeley, to get out of your mind this feeling of accomplishment from doing things that, in comparison to other people, like comparing yourself to other people is really unhelpful, because once you leave college, who are you going to compare yourself to? All your metrics are going to be determined by the group you're around, and that's not efficient for living after college, right? Living in life. That's not helpful. That's not healthy. So learning to distance yourself and be motivated by your own metrics and judging your own performance on your own terms is super important, because, like this quote says, there's always going to be someone better than you at something. So finding the things that you're passionate about is important, and focusing on them on your own pace is super important. This is your time to try new things. I mean, heck, I never would have thought I'd join blockchain at Berkeley, because blockchain isn't my main passion. As you guys saw, robotics is my passion. But within blockchain at Berkeley, I learned business development on like a real level. I mean, we're a company working with other companies, doing insane things that I never thought I'd be doing as a 19-year-old. I mean, I'm talking with like executives and senior accountants or senior positions at like big companies, and that's just insane. It's your time to try new things because you never know what you might get out of a new experience, right? Our age is a superpower. This is a funny one because, like I am doing to you guys right now, I'm sharing what I've learned. I found that people older than you love to share what they've learned. When you give them a chance to talk, people love to talk. And so, learning how to listen and using the fact that you're young to your advantage to talk to older people who have more experience and knowledge than you is a superpower. Um, Basically, scheduling a coffee chat with anyone who you are intrigued, and if you see some developer on LinkedIn, right, and you're like, hey, and you look into like what they're doing, and it seems really cool to you, and you're like, hey, I really love what you're doing. I'd love to talk to you more about it and have you tell me about it. I mean, or most times out of not, people are going to be interested in telling you about what they do, and being specific with what you want to know, right, is important, and not really expecting an ask. Like expecting someone to help you out is usually harder, right? But if you want people to just share their knowledge, it's pretty simple to do that. And using the fact that you're young is crucial in this time, right? People won't love to help people younger than them. Connections are the key to opening any door that you want. So this is part of also what I learned in business. Basically, any internship, any position, any partnership is done through connections. If you know the person who would be good in a partnership, you're going to make a partnership with them. If you don't know them, it's a lot harder to do that. So that's what inspired me to do biz dev. That's what um, inspired me to start doing business, because learning how to connect with people around you is more important than learning some technical skill almost, right? If you know how to get your foot in the door of some company, you can always learn technical skill afterwards. But if you don't know how to do that, if you don't know how to make a new friendship or a new connection, you're never going to be able to get your foot in the door, even if you have insane skills in some cases. If you can't communicate your ideas, if you cannot make friendships and so forth. And then lastly, I touched upon this: find time for the things that make you happy. Ultimately, this is a thing that makes you satisfied in life, right? Being happy in the end with what you're doing and with what your career is, with what your personal life looks like. This is the most important thing to you, and this is what you get to really find out in college, because now you're not on someone's schedule anymore. You're on your own schedule, and trying new things out, finding and reflecting back on your experiences to understand what are the things that are making you happy. What subject do you think of that makes your heart spike, or what activity do you do that you never feel like is dreading, that you never dread to do, or look down upon, right? What makes you happy is ultimately what you're gonna take after college. The subjects that make you intrigued and happy are gonna be the subjects that you remember, right? And so, yeah, always keep that in mind, and don't be bogged down by this is some cookie cutter route that I have to go on, that I have to keep a foot on, right? Because everyone has their own path and everyone has their own definition of happiness. So the only way for you to be happy is to figure out what makes you happy, not what makes someone else happy. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you guys for listening. I mean, I went a lot more over, so I apologize for that. But I'd love to answer any questions that you guys might have, and I'd love to stick around. I'm sure Aksh can share my email or so. I'll give it to Auction. He can send it out to you guys afterwards if you have questions, if you have to leave.